Hello, everyone. This is Robb Fahrion with another episode of the Sage Executive Podcast, where top executives, founders, and business leaders share their sage advice to you. I have an incredible guest today, Minda Wilson. I'm really excited for her to tell you more about herself, her business, and some of her advice. So let's get right into it. Minda, in a few sentences, would you mind telling us who you are and what it is you do?
So my name is Minda Wilson. I'm the founder of Fluidity-Health. We build tools that increase adherence for chronically ill patients. As most of you have experienced in your own life, when your partner is sick, really sick, they don't bring themselves soup. So oftentimes seriously ill patients need caretakers. And by providing tools for caregivers, who take care of chronically ill people in their lives, we empower them and we create a triple win for patients, providers, and for caregivers. For patients, we reduce burnout and we reduce the cost of care for patients who are sick. For providers, we actually help them see their revenue go up. And for payers, we generally experience a reduction in insurance claims. So wow. It's a triple win for everybody.
I like that.
And yeah, and how we do it is sort of the intriguing part.
Okay.
It's really fun.
Yeah, no doubt. We were talking about before we got on the show just how you started the business. Would you mind telling people a little bit more about how you saw this as a need and were kind of a part of that and built out Fluidity?
So it started really because I'm in the sandwich generation and I had to take care of my mom. At the same time, I had to take care of my kids and work full time.
Right.
So there aren't really tools for managing care for loved ones. And as my mom's health declined, it became harder and harder to manage things without tools available.
Right.
And so it inspired me, really. I figured, my dad's 96, and even though, knock wood, he's still healthy and he's still working, I knew his time was going to come too. And I wanted to make sure I had the tools I needed to take care of him.
That's amazing. So as the founder of Fluidity, obviously you're in a leadership role. We were talking about as a founder, you do everything from taking phone calls to taking out the trash, right? And a lot of it is leadership and
right, not glamorous.
Not glamorous all the time. Definitely true. What would you say though is the best thing about being a founder of your own business and a leader of that business as well?
To be honest with you, it's working with great people, getting to meet great people, and the ability to get things done. Mm-hmm. Like I think the execution piece is really wonderful. When you start with an idea and then you see it materialize, or you start working with a customer and you see them happy at the end, that's like a really great thrill for me.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely, when you're in the thick of it, right? Sometimes it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but once you get there and you see the reward on their faces or your employees' faces, that is definitely one of the most rewarding parts. So that's a great point. So part of the theme of this show and the consistent questions we ask is about new client acquisition or growing your business, right? There's so much competition online. There's so many great products and services that are out there. So what is Fluidity doing, or can you give some advice on how you've grown this business and built this into a successful business?
Right. I think one of the big things that people forget about is that every business is a service business, even if you're in a tech business. And you really have to create relationships with your customers. That's really important. And then on the sales side, it's my son is a really gifted salesperson.
Okay.
And this is what he told me that really helped me when in sales. So he says, I meet a lot of people and I sell our product, which I really believe in. I'm very passionate about, and as am I very passionate about what we do at Fluidity-Health. And it just has to be a match.
Mm-hmm.
So when you meet these people and you're talking about your product, you know what you have is fabulous and you know people need it, but it's like dating. It may not be a match for them.
Right.
So you have to understand that what you're doing is looking for matches, not really looking to win that sales opportunity. Because if you make a match, then you have a customer for life.
Right.
You have, but if you just, try to get the win, you're not going to have a customer for life. So, and then if you look at it that way, when you don't have a match, it's just not a match. So it's not personal. It's just not a good match for you.
Right.
So thank you, Henry.
Yeah, thank you, Henry. No, that's great. I can relate with that too, right? Early on in our agency's businesses was kind of go out, get any business, no matter what it looked like, where it came from, whatever it may be. And obviously as a startup, right, you're just trying to make it day by day by day. But I think to Henry's point, that became more and more prevalent to me. And I started to tell others it's a fit for both sides, right? They have to be a fit for you. You have to be a fit for them. And I think the onus falls a lot of times on the salesperson to identify that, right? Because I think a lot of times the client doesn't actually, they don't recognize it, or they're not maybe looking at it from that perspective. And so sometimes you have to do what's best for both of you, whether they might agree or disagree, because what is a match for you, like what you're saying, what is going to work with your company or your company's size or the capabilities that you have. So,
we know we are going to make caregivers' lives easier. We know we're going to save patients money. We know if you're a provider and work with us, you're going to see your revenues go up, which is great, right? And we know if you're a payer, you're going to see claims go down. We know these things. Right. So, but it may not be a fit with how their business operates.
Sure.
So, so the economic benefit may not be enough for them.
Right.
The implementation costs may be too high. There may be something that the culture may not look to technology. I mean, there's things on their side that may not make it the perfect fit. But when it is, then everyone wins, because people love saving money.
Right.
And people love making money.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was interesting what you said about, every business at the end of the day is a service business as well. And so I think part of the service also is in that consultation too, right? To where, okay, even if we do have a product, there's certain use cases for it. The product better than anybody else to identify if it is a fit or isn't a fit. And that's part of, to your point, being a service as well as a product, no matter what it is you might be selling.
And also one of the things that I think is really important, which we discussed already, is referrals, right? Because there's a lot of businesses and you're making matches. So by meeting a lot of people and referring somebody, you're helping them.
Right.
So people are often afraid to do that. But if you have somebody who you respect and someone whose product you think is worth looking at, then you can help somebody out. And that also is part of service.
Right. Oh, that's great. So moving forward to our next question, and kind of the name of the show, the Sage Executive Podcast, right? So if you had to give one piece, if we're calling it sage advice, to other founders, executives, business leaders, whoever it might be, that you've taken away over the course of your experience, what would that sage advice be for them?
I think the hardest thing for me to do, because I love to talk and I love to talk with people, is really listen. The thing that you get the most out of often is listening to other people. You have to realize that everybody has their value and their talents. So, and for me especially, like I'm not the smartest person in the room most often. So I have to really learn from the people that I surround myself with. So really listen, learn from the people you surround yourself with. Don't always think you know best. Learn how others have been successful, and learn how others have failed, because their successes and their failures have lessons for you. And failure isn't the worst thing in the world, because, it's like sales, you don't get the business, but it's because it's not a match. It's not because there's failure involved. There's something to learn from, right? And the other thing I think you really have to do is do a deep analysis about what you venture into. You need to see what the downside is.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people look at the upside and they don't really realize that something that may have a lot of upside could actually also hurt their business as well.
Right.
So the cost of getting there may be too high at the point in your business that you're with.
Sure. Yeah. Sometimes it's asking those tough questions, right? And going back to kind of that match, when we work with new clients, we have kind of a, we've pulled questions in and out, but we've kind of got this set of questions that we know, hey, these are all things that we need to know and understand about this business. And sometimes those questions, they're not easy questions to ask. Or on the flip side, the client sometimes doesn't want to tell us, right, for whatever reason it may be. But that's where we're trying to, really dive deep and understand, and where are the threats, where are the opportunities.
Right.
And I find myself doing the same thing with our own business every year, right, is going back and, okay, what tough questions do I need to ask myself at the end of this year or the end of this quarter? And what did we learn? What did we fail at? Because that's, you have to do that kind of self-reflection, right? And looking at things, not always through rose-colored glasses, which I think sometimes we're all prone to do, right? I tend to believe that people inherently are positive, or they at least want to be, right? And so,
exactly,
especially as entrepreneurs and founders, we always have to be positive for the most part, but sometimes that can jade our judgment a little bit.
Right. When I first started Fluidity, I had an opportunity to work with I had the opportunity to get a very, very large contract. And we started and it was a build to buy contract, which means they were going to pay for rebuilding the product so that it was customized to them.
Right.
And so we got along, and it was for a government agency. We got along to a certain point. And then the government changed how it operated. So they were no longer supporting build to buy contracts. Now, I was a startup company. I had very few resources, and they changed to a license model. So at that point, they wanted me to pay for completing the contract.
Right.
And then they would license it from us without the promise of, the number of people that were going to be using it.
Right.
I would have to do the selling. So what I learned was, it was very hard to say, no, I'm not going to do that, because I could have spent all my money building out the product, and then they could have had maybe 10. They weren't promising me that the 6 million people that were going to use it before were going to come on afterwards.
Right.
And it was hard to walk away. Very hard.
I'm sure. Oh, yeah. There's always the kind of the inflection moments, right, of business that you can kind of go back to and say, one way or the other, good or bad, right? Those were definitely some defining moments of building out this business.
Right. It was a great experience, and the people are wonderful. And when I'm a bigger company and can afford to do something like that, I'll be back. But when you're funding it yourself and you're a startup, it's very hard to write that check.
Right. No doubt. Okay. So doing great. You've been an awesome guest. Appreciate all your insights. So to close, we like to just kind of ask a fun question. After a win, and I tell people it could be a business win, a personal win, whatever, your sports team, whatever it may be, what do you like to do to celebrate a win?
We celebrate with food.
Yeah, there we go.
We're big on food.
Okay.
So either we bring in food, we have a party, we order food. There's always food when something good happens. That's what we like to do.
What's the go-to meal for you?
Dessert.
Dessert. Okay. Any specifics?
Well, it depends on who I'm with, right?
Okay. Oh, that's very good. Well, Minda, thank you so much for being on. Like I said, really appreciate your insights and your time. How can people that are listening find out more about you and about Fluidity?
So if they're interested in Fluidity, our services, they can go to our website, which is Fluidity, Fluidity-Health.com. I do have, I do write and blog and stuff like that. And it's my name, Minda-Wilson.com also.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll be sure in the show notes to get all of that information and links set up.
And one more thing, they can email me at Minda-Wilson@Fluidity-Health.com.
Perfect. Even better. Yeah, we'll be sure to get that in there. For everyone watching out there, my name again is Robb Fahrion with the Sage Executive Podcast. For more insights and to check out other episodes of the show, visit us at flyingvgroup.com/podcast. Minda, thank you so much for being on. Really appreciate it, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Minda.